Please like the video and subscribe to the channel. Thank you. Of all movie opening scenes, which one sold the entire film? The Matrix opening with Trinity was filmed with the entire original budget to convince the studio that they weren't fucking around. I remember watching a YouTube video deconstruct that opening and explain why it's perfect. Example, when we first meet Trinity, she's clearly a super badass, and then when you see later in that scene how scared she is of the agent following her, that is how you properly set up a movie antagonist. Just rewatch that, based on this comment. Well said. Lord of War. The opening credits follow the life of a bullet. It's manufactured, quality checked, packed into a box, and then shipped off to an African nation, where it gets loaded into a gun and shot into the head of a child soldier. And then we meet the protagonist, Yuri, Nick Cage, standing on a floor of empty casings. Says there's 550 million firearms in the world, one for every 12th person on the planet. Takes a drag on his cigarette and asks, how do we arm the other 11? Edit, misremembered the order of the scenes as a few people have pointed out. Yuri's monologue about one gun for every 12th person than the life of a bullet sequence. Also, thanks for the golds and silvers. I've always hated Nick Cage, but this movie is amazing. My HS ethics teacher showed it to our class and I loved it. Was pumped to see it was on Netflix. Edit, damn, this blew up. My hate is definitely unjustified as I've only really seen him in Lord of War, Ghost Rider and Family Man. It looks like I have some Nicolas Cage movies to watch, lol. Why the Cage hate though? National Treasure is great. Nick Cage is a national treasure. I think the opening scene / first chapter of Inglourious Bastard sets up the villain, Hans Landa, perfectly. Au revoir Shoshana. Amazing how not shooting her made him seem so much more evil. Because it's just a big puzzle for him. He doesn't really hate the Jews, he just doesn't give a shit about anyone at all. Yeah, I got that too. He was just a brilliant psychopath who loved the hunt. That's a bingo. Saving Private Ryan. I saw that right after visiting Omaha Beach. We stayed at a small bed and breakfast quite close to the beach, owned by a 80-year-old French woman who told us stories about how it went down. Amazing experience. She said the worst was the smell. It smelled dead bodies years and years afterwards. Much of Asia stopped eating seafood for months after that tsunami. Because they knew what those sea bugs had been eating. Now all I can think about are the chances of my having eaten something that has fed on human flesh. Probably very high, in fact almost certainly so, depending on how you want to define eaten human flesh. A common Fermi problem is to show that with every breath you take, on average you will breathe in about 10 air molecules that came from Julius Caesar's last breath. All stable elements are constantly being reused and recycled. Vegetables use minerals from the soil that may have originated from the decomposing of flesh, for example. American Psycho. I remember listening to him list out every single thing he does to groom himself in the morning, and I thought, what a psycho, then thought, do I get it? LMAO, I love the business card scene. Absolutely brilliant. Look at that subtle off-white coloring. The tasteful thickness of it. Oh my god, it even has a watermark. Ugh, please don't make me rewatch this movie tonight. There is a moment of sheer panic when I realize that Paul's apartment overlooks the park and is obviously more expensive than mine. Jaws, you never see the shark in the first attack. Just the knowledge that there's something under the water. Brilliant. Couldn't agree more. My father was a beach lifeguard when the movie originally came out. He has told me stories how people were legitimately afraid to go into the water after seeing the movie. Powerful stuff. My mom lived in Sydney when it came out. She wouldn't watch it because she wanted to keep going to the beach. She eventually did after moving back to the Midwest. Goodfellas. As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a gangster. The entire film feels like the opening scene. What a film. My favorite. The music. Best film ever. Watch the scene where Henry and Karen go through the side entrance to the Copa. If you watch carefully, you'll notice the trip through the kitchen was completely unnecessary. They just make a big circle and walk back out the same door. It's necessary street cred. The Matrix. I thought Trinity was the villain. We watch the lobby from the perspective of the guys running the scanner. Morpheus and his team are referred to as terrorists early in the movie, and it makes sense. They just go into places, shoot the shit out of a bunch of innocent people and blow shit up. What else could you call them? Fellowship of the Ring set a great tone for all of what was to come. But there were some who resisted. Still gives me shivers. Amazing opening monologue. Shouting as the arrow flies by his ear. So completely badass. Watching the charging orcs slam into a meat grinder wall of elven swordsmen never gets old. Pulp Fiction. I was 14 when I saw it, and the opening scene just completely blew me away. Garkan means boy. The flat tone of the actress when she delivers this line just cracks me up every time. Pirates of the Caribbean, Curse of the Black Pearl. The opening scene on the boat in the fog with the young Will and Elizabeth perfectly captures how hilarious, spooky, and kick-ass the rest of the movie is going to be. Also the first Lord of the Rings. So intense and on a massive scale, only to be followed by the Happy Shire scenes. Also the scene where we see Captain Jack Sparrow for the first time on the sinking boat. Confidently stepping onto the dock, just as the ship completely sinks, as if that was his plan all along. Such a perfect summary of his character in that one moment. You can't park your ship here. What ship?